Hello, sports fans. This is me, Sportsman Z, Bob Zolke, and today I am going to do a computer matchup, a computer Strat-O-Matic matchup between the 1879 Troy, I think it was Troy Haymakers, but if anybody else knows for sure, you can leave a comment below, but I think it was the Troy Haymakers against the 1968 San Francisco Giants. I will be managing the Giants. The computer will be managing the Haymakers. It'll be pitcher bat. I'm going to be pitching Bob Bolin, and he's going to be pitching G. Bradley. I'm not sure what his first name is, but I suppose we'll find out as the game goes on. So let's get started. I've got myself listed as human and playing the Giants, and him as the computer, so play ball.
Welcome to the stadium for today's ball game.
And I will lower the sound. And you can see it's in old Candlestick, 1968, so... And there's Bobby Bolin. And let's get this started. Pitching to Al Hall, and he walks him. I suppose we probably should hold him. Oh, okay, I guess the hold was on. So now this is Ed Kaskin. And that was a ground ball B with Kaskin at first. And now Dan Brothers is up. And that should be an out. No, it's a base hit. Ripped a base hit. And now Candy Nelson is up against Bolin, who is in trouble here. Right off the bat, right out of the gates. And what is that going to be? An out, and yeah, the runner scored. So there's 2 down, and Troy has gone ahead 1-0 here in the top of the first. I'm just going to hold on to the ball, let him steal. And that brings up Bob Ferguson of the Troy Haymakers, the Bob Ferguson. And that is stabbed by the second baseman, and that should be an out, and that is. And so now George Bradley, that's who's pitching, against Bobby Bonds, with the Giants down 1-0. And that looks like a ground. No, it's an error. He's on by an error. Now I'm going to try to steal Bonds. And he does make it, and now Ron Hunt is up. And Hunt looks like he's going to pop out. And now that brings up Willie Mays with 1 out and a man at second. And he's out. And now that brings up Willie McCovey. And Willie McCovey was on by an error. So one thing you got to remember about these 1800 teams is that people had like 50 and 60 errors. I mean, that was a decent guy. Had 50 or 60 errors. So, all right, so we got runners at the corners and Jim Ray Hart up. And he's over to first and out, so we got no runs. We threatened, but we didn't get any runs. And so that brings up Bobby Bolin will be pitching to George Bradley, their pitcher, who is batting in the middle of the lineup. So he must have been one heck of a good hitter. but he is out. And that brings up Jake Evans. And he got a base hit. Let's see if the hold, no. So I guess it's automatic hold, so we're just going to have to hope he doesn't steal. Base hit. 2 runners on with 1 out, and looks like Thorny Hawks. I don't know. Hawks with an out, and so now that brings up Al Hall back to the top of the order. And that's going to hopefully be a fly out. And it is. So they don't get any runs. Troy doesn't get any runs in the second. And now we're in the bottom of the second with Dick Dietz up. And it looks like he pops out. And that's going to bring up Jesus Alou. Looks like he'll ground out. And he does. And that brings up Hal Lanier. And Hal Lanier he flies out. So we get nothing there. No runners on, no runs, no nothing. And we are in the top of the third with Ed Kaskin up again against Bobby Bolin. And that's an out to second base. Dan Brothers. And he's out. And that brings up Candy Nelson. Candy Nelson with a base hit. And that brings up Bob Ferguson. And Bob Ferguson's out, so the Troy Haymakers get nothing there. Bob Boland's up. He's still pitching pretty decently, so we'll let him hit and stay in the game. And he gets a base hit. All right, Bobby Bonds up with Bob Boland on. But he's going to pop out. And that brings up Ron Hunt with 1 out and Bob Boland at first. And he probably is flying out to center. And that brings up Willie Mays. Come on, Willie. Come on, say hey, Willie. And he strikes out. So San Francisco gets no runs there, and that brings up George Bradley, the pitcher, to face our pitcher, Bob Boland. And looks like that's going to be a pop out to short. Hal Lanier grabs it, and that brings up Jake Evans. And he's safe at first on an error. So, Riley is up. This is Charlie Riley. And it looks like he is going to pop out. And that brings up Hawks, Thorny Hawks, or Tommy Hawks, or whatever his name is. We're going to throw for the runner. He's out. Good. All right, so now we've got Willie McCovey in the bottom of the fourth with the Giants still losing 1-0 to the Troy Haymakers. But that could be... no, that's a fly ball. Jim Hart with 1 out and nobody on. And he's out, and that brings up Dick Dietz, the catcher. Dick Dietz, and he's out. So no runs. Bob Bolin goes back out to the mound. We only have 1 hit, and we're losing 1-0 to the Troy Haymakers. Oh, I believe it was 1879. And there's an out, and that brings up Al Hall. Looks like he'll pop out. So it looks like Bolin has settled down a little bit now finally, but maybe a little too late if we can't get anything generated. Here's Ed Kaskin. And he's out. So we are now batting in the bottom of the 5th with Jesus Alou leading off. And that is going to be a base hit. All right. Hal Lanier is up with Alou at first. I'm not going to try to steal. We'll just let Lanier hit. I mean, we're going to have to get our own offense generated somehow. And he pops out. And that brings up Bob Bolin. In the 5th, he's still pitching very well, and we're only down by a run, so I'll let him stay in the game and hit. And he got a hit last time anyway. And he was safe. Let's see. Yeah, there was an error, maybe even a single and an error on that. Bobby Bonds is up. And this is a good opportunity right here to try to score a run with 1 out and runners at 2nd and 3rd. And he does get a base hit. I'm going to hold the runner. At least we tied the game. And now we've got runners at the corners with Ron Hunt up and still only 1 out. And Ron Hunt looks like he at least hit it deep enough to score the run. No, he got a double even. So it's 2-1 with Hunt at first, and that brings up Willie Mays. Come on, Willie. And he walks to first, so now we've got bases loaded and Willie McCovey with 1 out. You don't want to be the Troy Haymakers here, already losing by a run. But it looks like he's going to pop out. And now we've got Jim Ray Hard up with the bases loaded and 2 down. And he's going to pop out. So not a big scoring bonanza going on here with the San Francisco Giants winning 2-1 in the top of the 6th with Dan Brothers up for the Troy Haymakers. And that's an out, and that brings up Candy Nelson. And he strikes out, and that brings up Bob Ferguson. And Bob Ferguson's going to pop out to short to end that inning. And now we're up in the bottom of the 6th with Dick Dietz, the catcher, up. And he flies out. Jesus Alou. Looks like he's going to fly out. And now that brings up Hal Lanier, the shortstop. And that's an out. So the fact that Bolin didn't come up at least buys him this inning. So he'll pitch leading off the 7th to George Bradley, the other pitcher. And he strikes out. That brings up Jake Evans for Troy. That's going to be a base hit. And he is a good base stealer, but we can't be concerned with that. And besides, that's probably the best hold we're going to get on him. Charlie Riley walked. So now there's 2 on with 1 out, and Hawks is up. And we're going to throw for the runner. And no, it got away and a run scored, and now Boland's in a lot of trouble. I'm going to intentionally walk him to set up the double play because I don't really like to bring the infield in. It's not one of my favorite things to do. So we're going to hope that Al Hall hits into a double play or pops out or strikes out or something. And, well, he got the runner at home still. So there's 2 out with Kaskin up. And we're going to throw for the runner again. No, it backfired on us again. All right, Kaskin's up, and now they're ahead 3-2 with 2 outs in the 7th. And there's a strikeout. So Troy takes the lead on some poor fielding and bad pitching by Bobby Boland. And Bobby Boland, even though he's 2 for 2, I'm going to pinch hit for him right here. And we are going to put in... We're going to pinch hit Barton for him. Bob Barton. And he gets a base hit. Bobby Bonds up. Gonna let him hit. And a base hit by Bobby Bonds. All right, now we got something going against George Bradley. Runners are at the corners with no outs. And Ron Hunt is up. And it looks like that's just going to be a shallow fly. No, he dropped it. E8. Nice. So Hunt is on second. A run scored. The tying run scored. And now we've got runners at second and third with Willie Mays up and still no outs. And that should be big by Mays. That might even be a home run. That might be gone. And it is. Home? No, it isn't. And that's a triple. It's a triple for Mays. So he knocks in a couple of runs, and now we take a 5-3 lead with Willie McCovey up. No out still. And Willie McCovey is at least going to have a deep enough fly to score the run. Well, I'm going to say yes. And now it's 6-3 with 1 out and Jim Ray Hart up. And Jim Ray Hart is out. And that brings up Dick Dietz with 2 down. And Dick Dietz looked like he grounded out. And he did. And now we have to put in a pitcher for Boland. I'm going to say let's go with Lindy McDaniel. No. No, that was a very bad year for Lindy McDaniel. Okay, let's go with, I think it's Frank Lindsay. Yeah, Frank Lindsay. And he's going to be pitching to Dan Brothers with no outs to lead off the top of the eighth. And Dan Brothers gets a hold of one. He's going to have something there, looks like, maybe. No, it's caught. Nice. And that brings up Candy Nelson. And he got into one, but that's probably going to be a fly ball. And he's out, and then that brings up Bob Ferguson. And Bob Ferguson is going to be out. So that brings up Jesus Alou in this matchup of two teams from history, decades and decades and decades apart, but even almost a century apart. Jesus Alou will bat against George Bradley, who stays out there and is continuing the deal, but that's a pop out. Hal Lanier comes up with one out in the bottom of the eighth. And that's a fly out. And that brings up Frank Lindsay, and we'll let him hit because we're going to keep him out there. That's how things were done in 1968. And he's out. So now Lindsay comes out to deal to Bradley. And they do pinch hit for Bradley. They're going to bring in Fred Goldsmith to bat for Bradley. And looks like he is going to be safe on an infield hit. And that brings up Jake Evans. Still, we have a 3-run lead here. Base hit. Runners are at first and second with Riley up. Charlie Riley. No outs. And that's going to be a fly ball, looks like. Yep. One out. Runners at first and second. Hawks is up. That's probably going to be a fly ball, fly out. And it is, and that's 2 down now with Al Hall up. And he's going to pop out, and it looks like we got the win. All right, and the Giants win at 6-3, beating the Troy Haymakers. Let's see. And there's the box score for anybody to look at. Who's interested, I'll give you a second to look at that. But, yeah, San Francisco winning 6-3. Of course, it says the Gents instead of the Giants. Oh, the Trojans. Okay, the Troy Trojans, I suppose, is what their name was. But the Troy Trojans go down 6-3 to the Gents, or really the Giants. I just didn't change the name on the team. But we got Bob Bolin going 7, giving up 5 hits and 1 earned run. And Lindsay came in and pitched 2 scoreless innings to preserve the win. And so interesting game there between a team from 1879 and another one from 1968. As I said, almost a century later. But for right now, that's all I got. And it's Sportsman Z, Bob Zulke, signing off.